Hey viewers and viewers, my name is General Red Strategist and welcome back to Say Being Hunted. It's time for another challenge. I'm pre-recording a load of content as usual in advance of the Easter leave period from work, so I need to get cracking on. I'm thinking about doing a 1 hour challenge for this one and hopefully I'll do better than the last time, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we won't get stuck on a church or something like that, end up being shot to pieces or whatever. So, ladies and gentlemen, in case anyone is curious, if you haven't already gathered from the video title, this is the Thomas the Tank Engine challenge, ladies and gents. Now, the original idea for this was actually suggested by Phil. He texted me one day with the basic premise of it. Basically, I have to collect toy trains. That's kind of the essence of it. But I decided to sort of expand a bit on Phil's original idea. So, basically, Phil's original idea was collect as many toy trains as you can to score points, and then at the end of it, just set them all off at once, and basically have a big train party, and if the robots try and interfere, you kill them. That was the basic premise of the challenge that he explained via text message. But I decided to, I don't know, add something else to it to make it more interesting. So, I have to gather the toy trains. Yes, absolutely, we're going to do that. However, I don't automatically score points for collecting them. What I have to do is I have to collect them, and then once the total time of 1 hour has elapsed, I have to go to where I'm storing all my trains, gather them all together, and then I have to try and name each one. And I have to name each one after a character from Thomas the Tank Engine. So I have to basically try and remember as many Thomas characters as possible, and I'll only score a point for each one I can actually remember. So I'm feeling mildly confident about that because I feel like I do remember a few Thomas the Tank Engine characters from my youth. In fact, come to think of it, since I've outlined the rules of the challenge, I'm just going to start my timer now. So 1 hour begins now, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get cracking on, I do think. Sort this stuff out. As you can see, well, actually, not as you can see really, but you might be able to tell. There's quite a few buildings around. I've not really played around all that much with the map generation, other than just to increase the number of large structures and number of villagers and all that. So I've got to obviously select probably a building where I can store all my trains that I've collected. So that'll probably have to be a mansion or a pub or something, if I can find one. I'll take an alarm clock and a pie. That's very nice. But it got me thinking, actually, you know, when Phil suggested this particular challenge idea to me. Because I used to watch a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine when I was a very young kid. When I was about, 3 or 4 years old. However old I was at the time. And the thing is, actually, it got me thinking. When I was a kid, back in the 90s, apart from having an old VHS tape which had one of the older seasons of Thomas the Tank Engine on it, I do remember there was a toy shop in Lancaster, which I, as far as I'm aware, I don't think it still exists. I think it went out of business a long time ago. But there was a toy shop I remember in Lancaster. It may have been near the city centre, near where the City Museum is located. I just remember it being somewhere around there, assuming I'm not misremembering. But so there's this toy shop, and I remember they had a whole room which was full of little Thomas the Tank Engine toys. And I remember as a kid you could buy like these little sort of fairly detailed models of Thomas the Tank Engine characters made of plastic and metal. And I remember as a kid, sometimes whenever the family would we would all get in the car and go off to Lancaster because the parents need to go shopping for something, for school supplies or clothes or something. Have you been a good kid? My old mother, she would take me across to the toy shop and we'd buy a little Thomas the Tank Engine model train toy thing. And I remember as a kid, I had quite a few of them. Collected a fair number. And so I can still picture some of the ones I had in my head now. So the thing is, they had all the usuals, obviously like Thomas and Annie and Clarabelle, his carriages, Percy, Toby, James, the red engine, Gordon, the big blue steam engine and all that, and, you know, tons of other ones. But yeah, I remember that. I wonder if my family still has all of those gathered away somewhere in their attic or something. I imagine they probably do, because it would be kind of, I think, short-sighted of them to get rid of them all. I mean, truth be told, I think my parents kind of still are holding on to a lot of toys that me and my sibling had from our youngest days, because I know they still have a load of my old childhood Lego sets, things like that, which is really good. Because the thing is, I think my parents are very much of the mindset that, you know, sure, these toys may be old and they may be getting a bit scuffed and they may not be in tip-top perfect condition, but they're still serviceable, they're still good toys. You never know. One day, if myself or my sibling ever has a child, you can just pass the toys on, you know? Saves you having to buy new toys entirely. just give them a hand-me-down and all that. And to be honest, I'm fully on board with that idea. I think it's great, rather than necessarily buying all new stuff. Sorry, I'm jerking the camera around like crazy. Not seen any toy trains yet. What's going on? Well, then again, we are only, what, less than 5 minutes into the challenge. We're good. So yeah, maybe when I'm back up north in a bit, maybe I'll have to ask. Ask the old folks. Did he still have a load of my old childhood Thomas the Tank Engine toy trains? Oh, there we go. There's the first one. Very good. Yeah, I'm sure they do. Like I say, right? They must have an absolute ton of them, right? I just don't think I really need any more food or stealth items, do I? Don't know why I'm collecting this many. As if I'm going to be using them for something. So, yeah, I'm currently just sort of going through my head at the moment, trying to remember as many of the little model train toys that I had, and trying to remember their names. Because the thing is, I reckon I can remember quite a few names of Thomas the Tank Engine characters. Though truth be told, obviously that was yonks ago. That was back in what, the 1990s, very early 90s. So of course there will have been a lot of probably a lot of characters added to the Thomas the Tank Engine lineup in the years since then. There will be tons of characters who I don't know, who I'm not familiar with. But yeah, the VHS tape that I mentioned a moment ago that I had, that had a load of Thomas episodes on it. Of course, that was an old series. That was back in the day when the producers of it actually literally filmed an actual train set with custom-made character trains running around the little tracks and things like that. Whereas I imagine a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine stuff now is probably CGI, I would guess. I feel like I've seen pictures of CGI Thomas the Tank Engine from more recent years, which is cool. I don't understand why they do it, but still, it's like a lot of old, there we go, another train. It's like a lot of old children's, and not just children's series actually, but a lot of old things from back in the day, sort of like the 70s and before, or even the 80s and before, in fact. That kind of thing. There was a time when, obviously, producers of these things would actually physically make models of things and use actual physical effects, because of course there's no CGI or anything like that. It reminds me a bit of, obviously, as well as that, other TV shows that I remember watching as a kid and enjoying, like Thunderbirds, the old 1960s Jerry Anderson show, because of course that one uses a lot of actual physical effects. So if you want to do an explosion, you actually get a camera, you make a little miniature set piece. What you want to, what you want to blow up is what I was about to say then, of the thing rather I should say that you intend to blow up. You get like a tiny little, just a very little explosive charge, and that's what you do. You put a camera nice and close and you film it. And as a kid, when you don't have any real knowledge of practical effects or perspective or anything like that, it's the most impressive thing in the world. Watching that, Can't be the only person who thinks that way, right? Yes. But, did I actually do an episode recently where I was trying to recall Thomas the Tank Engine storylines from the episodes? I feel like I did, didn't I? Was that the thing that inspired Phil originally to send me this idea for a challenge? It probably was, actually, wasn't it? Come to think of it. I think. Yes. I feel like that probably was the case, in all honesty, ladies and gentlemen. But I could always try it again. Try and remember as many Thomas the Tank Engine episode storylines as I can recall. I mean, the thing is about, obviously, Thomas the Tank Engine. Originally it started out life as a series of kids' books by the Reverend Audrey, he was called, here in the UK. I forget, though, when the Reverend Audrey was alive. I mean, it must have been, like, early 20th century, right? 1910s, 1920s, 30s, somewhere around there, when he was writing them. Right? Am I remembering that correctly? Or maybe it was, like, as late as the 40s or the 50s. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that apparently, you know, he just... I think he lived near a railway line, and he would just observe trains coming and going. And so he started writing stories for kids about trains with faces that can talk, and the little adventures that they get up to, things that happen in the place where they reside. So that was how it started. But I'm now trying to remember, obviously, with like the Thomas the Tank Engine series, I'm trying to remember storylines. I mean, some of these that I'm about to say I've probably talked about already, haven't I? But I'll reiterate them just for a brief period to refresh my memory and all that. Did I talk about an episode on the VHS tape I owned where Thomas was arrogant and he went into like a quarry or something, thinking he could just sort of drive around without running into problems, but then the troublesome trucks actually push him onto a bit of unstable ground, where there's like an old mine shaft or something, and it subsides, so he gets stuck in the ground, kind of, tipped up at an angle, and so everyone then has to come and get him out. I feel like that was, yeah, that was. I was about to say I feel like that was a story. No, I don't feel like that was. I know it was, because I can picture it in my head still to this day. What other episodes were there on that Thomas the Tank Engine VHS? There's one where they were visited by an actual real-life locomotive, the city of Truro, which incidentally is in the Swindon Steam Museum. I've seen it, the actual train, locomotive rather. So there was that one. I just remember it starting off with the city of Truro, but I can't remember what the remainder of that episode was about. Was it about one of the bigger locomotives? Was it Henry, the big green locomotive? Did he get sort of envy and decide to try and be like the city of Truro, but then inevitably sort of ran into trouble somehow? I can't remember. I do know of some episodes that I don't remember having on my VHS tape, which I did see at various times on children's TV, like the one there Henry gets bricked up in a tunnel. Remember that one? Or the one where I think it's Gordon gets something happened to Gordon. Did he like crash through a wall or something? Something like that? Or was it he got stuck in a he derailed on a turntable or something? It was something like that, I'm sure it was. I feel like I'm not misremembering that. I seem to recall there was also a Thomas episode where Thomas and friends found like a flat car with a big Chinese dragon float on it. Presumably that was something to do with like a Chinese Year of the Dragon festival or something, I don't know. Something along those lines. I seem to recall, though, as a very young kid, that episode, I don't know why, but I have recollections of that episode actually creeping me out. I really don't know. Maybe I should... I'm sure people have probably uploaded Thomas the Tank Engine episodes on YouTube, right? I could probably find clips from them. I'd have to go and have a look. Because the thing is, something I've always been tempted to do, next time it's Halloween, apart from just doing, you know, the usual horror game playthroughs and whatever else have you, part of me's tempted as well to do what some other channels have done and do like a big essay video looking back on my youth and things that I found scary as a kid, whether that's films or TV shows or whatever. Because Lord knows, I can definitely think of a few things that as a kid used to creep me out. And yeah, I could probably do a whole video about that. A little video essay, a little bit of nostalgia from my youth. See how many other people remember the things that I remember, and whether they were also creeped out by them or not. But yes, Thomas episodes. Yeah, I'm trying to remember other ones. There was one actually about that diesel locomotive, Mavis. There was actually another locomotive in Thomas literally called Diesel, but there was also one called Mavis. I remember, wasn't there an episode about her where she is driving along and she goes over like a rickety bridge and gets stuck? Something like that. I feel like a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine episodes involved characters basically running into physical difficulties on the railway line. Wasn't there another episode about a character called Oliver? A little engine who basically gets picked on by the troublesome trucks who like run him, like derail him or something? Was it something like that? I also have, I think there was another episode like that with on my VHS that I had as a kid, which was Percy being, again, possibly derailed by troublesome trucks. Feels like the troublesome trucks always used to enjoy just derailing the engines and just being generally a bunch of assholes. Ugh. But I always remember actually what was kind of dark about Thomas the Tank Engine is that technically the engines can die in it. That was always something that I remember from my youth. Because wasn't there a thing about Oliver, for example, that originally he was destined for the scrapyard? And also Trevor, the traction engine? Wasn't there also a plot line about him being originally intended to go to the scrapyard because he was out of use? So then Thomas and his friends basically helped get him a new lease of life. So as a kid you don't really think about these things, but it's actually kind of dark, isn't it, ladies and gents? Oh, Kurumi! Not really seen much of you yet, Kurumi. Ah, the sunshine feels lovely, but it's almost too much. The sun is at its highest point, so perhaps it's too hot. Allow me to put up a beach parasol. Oh, thank you very much. However, in that case, it is like a place to sit and rest. Naturally, I'll also set up a beach chair.
Wow!
Oh my, that would be wonderful.
I am concerned.
But then on the other hand, a glass of tropical juice would be most fitting. I've made fresh juice from the island fruits.
I shall praise you.
Perfect. I have nothing else to add.
Oh my! What do you think?
What is it? Is there something else you are lacking? No, I'm not lacking anything, and in fact I feel like I have something I should not.
I see.
I feel a sense of security like I'm at home.